We stopped by the Epic Daniels Woodland booth at the IAAPA 2025 trade show this past November in Orlando, Florida, to speak with pioneer veteran airbrush artist Craig Fraser. Hey, Craig. So who was your biggest influence, and how did you get involved in the industry?
My biggest influence was automotive. I grew up in Bakersfield. We had Famosa Raceway and Mason Moran, and the whole custom culture was in that area. A lot of hot rod builders. I grew up around Don Prudhomme's engine builder and a number of other guys that were in racing. And then I always liked the paint involved with that. And then I also grew up going to the RG Canning and World of Wheels shows and looking for people like Ed Roth and Carl Casper and Dean Jeffries and all these customizers I always looked up to. And I ended up actually working for Ed Roth later on. But that was what really got me involved with airbrushing and artwork. My artwork is always influenced by the old Roth Studio stuff, which basically became all the artists went over to Zap Comics, Robert Williams and Spain Rodriguez and all those guys. So all my early influences all really had to do with what was the custom culture and the automotive industry.
What was your biggest challenge you had to conquer early in your career?
Realizing that getting rid of the possibility of considering perfection to be an actual attainable goal, but also learning that success is more important through failure than anything else, and learning that I probably will suck at something before I get better at it, and not getting frustrated and just tossing it aside if it wasn't very good. So just pursuing that, and that's the biggest hang up I see with most artists. They'll find something that they're naturally good at, and then they'll just wallow in that for the rest of their career. And you can see that from absolute beginners to professionals that do very well, but they're a one-trick pony.
What do you think is the biggest challenge for young artists today?
About a couple of decades ago, the biggest hurdle I would have said was using the internet in lieu of actual research. And basically now it's AI, which is even worse. It's like it's so easy to fall into the game of rationalizing using AI to create all your stuff, and you don't realize that without creative artists putting input into the system, AI is going to become very inbred, very stagnant, and will always go the path of least resistance, not the path of most creative or the most venturous. AI will always game its decision because that's the algorithm. It's not designed to fail. And it's not designed to look for failures in that respect. It's designed to prevent it. It's a production machine. So a lot of artists are going to fall into that and then wonder why down the road they're replaced by it. If you're going to use AI, you will be replaced by it. It's the whole adage that if you don't want to be, back in the '60s, if you don't want to be replaced by a monkey, don't do a job a monkey does.
What has been the best part of working with Daniels Woodland?
Yeah, I get bored real easily, and I kind of move around different industries. Sometimes I'll overlap them. I still do literally everything I did before I worked with Daniels Woodland. I still have my partner in Bakersfield, Cal Concepts. I still do custom paint work. I had 3 vehicles at SEMA this last year. I still design booths for SEMA. And then I still work for Fender guitars and Minaret guitars, and I still work for Guy Fieri whenever he needs me. And so I try and keep all that going. What Daniels Woodland just did was give me a little bit more breathing room in the scenic industry. And all my friends, I'm 60 years old. Most of my friends were professionals in like first responders, cops, military. I grew up. My dad was lieutenant colonel, so I'm used to people retiring by the age I'm at right now. And most of my friends are all retired, and they always joked about me never retiring because he always said I never worked for a living. I was just an artist. I was always having fun. And then this right here, this is my retirement to an extent. This allows me to work on other things and not have to. Because in the past, I would always pick and choose my artwork, but I always had the back of my mind, remember, I got bills to pay. And so this right here it's kind of a form of a retirement for me from a lot of other things on having to do stuff. Now, I've got stuff I have to do here, but I also have a half dozen artists that work for me here at Daniels Woodland. So I'm able to art direct them, and I'm able to try things that maybe I didn't have the time to do before or the luxury to do before because I was too busy either trying to make a living or trying to make other people money. Now I have one company that, whether or not I have a bad day when I get up, I can still function, still work on it. Whereas, it's like I have a little more leeway, working for a company. And people always say, the advantage, I want to leave my company and go work on my own. And I always tell students going back years ago, I would say, look, don't quit your day job. Now, most people consider that to be an insult. when you say that to someone. Don't quit your day job. But the reality is, if you have a day job and you have a way of making money without having to lean on the most innovative and creative aspects of your industry, of yourself, then you'll take those chances because you got that paycheck. If you don't have another source of income and your sole source of income is your own creativity, you will never take the same risks. And I noticed that myself. Even though, for 30 years I was self-employed, I had royalties coming in from products I developed, videos I did. I had workshops I did. I had a regular retainers from companies that I would do consulting with. So I did have, even though I didn't clock in, I did have a regular source of income. And that is really important. So what Daniels Woodland does is just give me even more leeway. I've done some of my most innovative stuff in the last 5 years because I haven't had to, and I've done some stuff that's like, oh, that sucked, and then put it aside. But guess what? I couldn't have afforded to do that before because it's like to burn 2 weeks on something and maybe in 2 years it'll amount to something, but it didn't amount to anything, and so I'm allowed to do that now, and I can take chances and learn new techniques that I didn't have the learning curve before. And I learned that from talking to professional artists I really looked up to, that I was like, well, we were doing that technique when, I won't mention his name, he was a famous artist I always looked up to, and he was using a Model H airbrush, a single action airbrush. And I said, I'll give you one of my microns to try out. I go, God, I'd love to see what you do with the micron. He said, I'm 6 months to a year behind all my artwork. And I don't know if that learning curve, I could afford to do that. And so he couldn't learn to use a better airbrush or a better tool because he was so in that. And this is what I consider one of the top illustrators in the world of all time. And then he was trapped by his own success and his own deadlines not to even be able to innovate and come up with something new. And it started making sense because I have professional musician friends that are major people in the industry that why don't you come up with new songs? Why do you keep on playing the old stuff? They can't get out of their own way. So Daniels Woodland allows me to get on my own way.
What's been the hardest part of surviving the business side of being a production artist?
Just looking at it at a different angle. The important thing is to look at everyone out there and realize they're going through and doing the exact same shit you're doing. So when you're looking at someone and you're judging them in a way you're not judging yourself, I always assume everyone out there wants the same thing. That's a mistake because sometimes just the people out there are messed up. But in the industry, you just gotta, when you start getting depressed, you start getting low on it, just find something else to do. Just change it around. I mean, repetitive stress injury is called carpal tunnel if it's in your wrist. If it's in your brain, it's doing the same damn thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And so do something different, find something different, find a different medium, take a break, paint something. When I take a break, I don't stop painting or creating. I just stop maybe this one medium. I never work on anything less than, I've got probably 5 to 10 projects at my house. And then I got another 5 to 10 projects on the side at Daniels Woodland. Then there's Daniels Woodland projects that are on the back burner that aren't paying any money. They're just like experiments in R&D. And then I just round robin, I'm working along on something. I'm like, oh, hell, I don't want to work on that. Go to the next one. I don't work on it. Sometimes I'll go through all of them and I just go back and play video games. Maybe today isn't the day. But no matter what, never force yourself to do something because then you'll burn yourself out. Burnout is 100% the artist's fault. Whenever writer's block, 100% the writer's fault. Anyone that says that is lying. We're our own worst enemies.
It's been super cool for you to spend time with us. Thanks, Greg.
Anytime. My pleasure, man.